Welcome back to the Shatterproof Entrepreneur. So glad you're here. We have a very special guest today. Steph, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be on the other side with you.
Yeah, it's been fun. I was on your show, I guess, a couple of months ago, and I've had great feedback from people that have listened to the episode, and I had a blast. And so we've asked you to be on the show. I couldn't do justice to an introduction for you, so kind of tell the audience who Steph Silver is and what you do.
Yeah. Okay. So Steph Silver, I am a marketer, brander, author, podcast host, silly, goofy, clumsy lady.
You do a lot. I
I
don't know about
do.
clumsy, but you do a lot. Yeah. So what state are you in? I can't remember.
I'm in Texas, so I'm just down the road from you, just outside of Austin.
Okay, that's right. Okay, very cool. Well, thanks for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. I think you've got a lot of value that that you can give to the audience and help them to grow and shatterproof their businesses. So I'm glad that you're here. I know you because of your podcast, the MVP Business Podcast. I also know you are the founder of Vine Collective. Kind of tell me about your journey. Which came first, Vine Collective or MVP?
Vine Collective came first. I worked for an agency in Austin, a marketing and design agency in Austin for 12 years. Started in sales, worked my way up, eventually was vice president. We grew it from a small graphic design shop to a big agency with, Hilton Hotels and University of Texas and all sorts of really wonderful clients. And then in that time frame, I had children and decided and moved, out to the burbs a little bit further out from where the agency moved north. I moved south. And so I decided both to get out of traffic and get back into my home with my kids, but also to focus my business on clients and working with businesses who have meaningful businesses, who really care and have a passion for what they're doing.
Yep.
And a lot of people at first thought that was, purely working with nonprofits, but that's not necessarily the case. I mean, first of all, nonprofits need to be profitable too, but also, businesses like yours that just really, really care about what they're doing and making a positive impact in the world. And first of all, I wanted to make sure that I was, improving the world and not just helping people spend money on things they didn't want. Marketing is hard that way, but also I realized that the businesses that had leaders who were passionate about making a difference had more successful businesses. Their employees were happier and they were more loyal. They made better decisions about their product and their service offering. They made better financial decisions because it was all coming from a place of care and passion, and not just looking at the bottom line on all the spreadsheets. So, so the podcast MVP Business was born out of the fact that I was having all these amazing conversations. I love to network. I love to go out and meet people, talk to people. And I'd sit down and have these long conversations with people about their business. And I, was really curious. And I thought, people need to hear these conversations. They need to know why certain businesses are successful, but they also need to know like the struggles behind being an entrepreneur, being a business owner. And so that's what MVP Business is. It's sharing the stories of leaders who live through their mission, vision, and passion.
Yeah, and that's where we have so much in common. I came from the litigation world, doing lots of big corporate litigation, and felt like I was helping no one. And once I started working with small business owners and getting paid for value that I was giving them, everything started to shift, and I felt like I was helping people, and like you said, making a difference in making the world better. And then as I shifted into helping people that were our podcasters, speakers, trainers, coaches, whose whole entire focus is trying to help other people, bring information to people, then my influence got to be exponential. So I love your why and why you do this stuff. Tell me about Vine Collective and what Vine Collective does.
Vine Collective has evolved. I started off, like I said, at the previous agency, I moved from sales into all the different roles and ended up being a vice president. But I didn't think that I had an actual talent.
Hmm.
Here I'm working with people who are amazing graphic designers, content writers, website developers, videographers, and they have these very specific talents.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think that I had one until one of my employees unprovoked said, "Man, Steph, there's no way I could do this without you. Like just handling the client and all the deadlines, and you handle 30 clients with 10 projects underneath them all at the same time. I don't know how you do it." And I thought, oh, I do have a I do have a talent.
Yeah.
Um, and that's people. So I left the agency not knowing what I would do, but knowing that I could continue basically doing what I was doing, but for different people, and doing it from my home so I could pick up my kids at 3 o'clock instead of putting them in
Yeah.
aftercare in somebody else's care. Um, and so it started with kind of doing the same thing, which is, logo creation, brand creation, extending that brand out, helping people, reconnect to their story or tell their story better. Um, all of those things, which I'm really, really excited and passionate about. I love seeing a brand come to life, getting somebody's, what's in their head and then putting it onto paper and then launching it into the world. It's really amazing. But then I also went a little deeper, and this is kind of coming to fruition more and more as I've been in business for 5 years. And that's going back to that concept of the mission, vision, passion. So I love working directly with the business owner, and I have worked with, hundreds of thousands of businesses over the years, and, really getting inside, knowing how the business works, like I said, what the challenges are, and how to overcome them. And I also I'm constantly doing a ton of self work, mental, physical, spiritual, all of it. And so, in addition to the traditional marketing and branding work, I do executive coaching with my clients. And sometimes it's with my clients, and sometimes I just do executive coaching and then I advise on their brand when that stuff comes up. And executive coaching covers life coaching, because there really is no difference. You can't say
Right.
like my family's over there and has nothing to do with my business.
Yeah.
Um, and honestly, if your family isn't healthy, then your business isn't going to be healthy either, and vice
Yep.
versa. So I do that, and I work with other coaches as well. And then I also am working with businesses to help them with their internal offsite meetings, making sure that they are connected and holistic. And again, it's kind of like taking business off the spreadsheet and realizing that it's humans, it's heart to heart, it's a holistic being. And so when you are having those big planning strategy meetings, if you're just looking at dollars and cents, then you're missing a lot of beautiful things in between. So I help to organize and facilitate those meetings as well.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, you do a lot. Um, let's
And I
you
just
mentioned a
authored
couple
a
of
book.
what's your book called?
It's called Anywhere USA.
Okay.
It is a memoir, my life from 2 to 42. And it is quite a journey. You'll see why I can't sit still when you read it. Let's see, I was kidnapped by my birth father at the age of 2. And then my stepdad, new dad, um, took my family and I from Tulsa, Oklahoma. You mentioned your
Yep.
family's in Tulsa too. Took us from Tulsa, Oklahoma to California. We lived on the side of the road outside of Tahoe for a couple of weeks. And then we bounced around from shelter to campground
Wow.
um, and then back again, at one point we lived in a 4-bedroom, 2-story house and had a boat and truck and a car and and a cat and a dog and a bird. And then we left it all behind to go live in a campground again. So
Wow.
very, very interesting.
Where do we find your book?
It's on all the Amazon. So you can get it Kindle, Amazon, and Audible.
Okay.
You can also get it at Barnes and Noble online.
Okay. We'll make sure and have a link to it so that people can grab it. You mentioned a couple of concepts there that I want to make sure that everyone understands. We're talking about you do marketing, and then we talked about branding. Give me your definition of marketing.
Marketing is the tactical how to get out in front of your target audience. And then the branding is how it feels. It is the look and feel and what people are saying about you when you're not around.
Yep.
It's the way that your customers whether they refer you or not, it's the way that your employees talk about you, the way they behave inside your business. So branding isn't just the logo, like a lot of people think.
Yep.
Branding is all the look and feel, and the feel is a big part of it.
Yeah, and the marketing to me is everything that you do to bring in a customer to your business to have a chance to sell to them. And then, like you said, and the branding is such an important part of that because how they feel about your business is makes all the difference because people buy from companies and people that they know, like, and trust. And feeling is it's all about how they feel. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, so I love what you do. A marketing major. I always wanted to be an advertising executive in college, and just could not find a path for that. And so I ended up in law school, which has been great. I still get to do a lot of marketing,
Mhm.
but I was very interested. In fact, my best friend in business school is an ad exec for a big food advertising company in Chicago. He found the path and made it, and he has a great life too. Well, so you do marketing for small businesses that are, that are making a difference in the world.
Mhm.
And then you also really focus on what I think I've heard you call the power of human connection in business. Is that
That's right. That's
that?
right. It's funny. People will ask me sometimes, "Well, do you do marketing or branding for B2B, for business to business?" I'm like, yes, we're all humans making decisions.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. It's all psychology. You mentioned, wanting to go into advertising. I wanted to go into psychology. And I thought I didn't know if I'd be able to handle the emotional load is the
Yep.
main reason that I didn't carry it forward. But I went into theater instead, which is all psychology. And then that was my undergraduate degree. And then my first job out of school was director of sales and marketing. The universe just aligned on that one. I don't know how it
Hmm.
happened because I declared marketing as my major, but never took one class. So I got dumped in right after school, and what it's all psychology though.
Yeah.
And
Everything.
everything that we do is psychology. People ask me all the time, "Well, do you ever use theater?" I'm like, "Pff, every day." It's not. I don't have to be on a stage, which do the podcast and all that kind of stuff, but um, human connection is everything. So this is why, MVP Business podcast, looking at the mission, vision, passion, um, when you let go of those things and you forget that it's human to human, then it becomes numbers. Your business becomes numbers. And you don't make the same decisions when you do that. You don't grow your services the same way. So yes, it's the power of human connection, and it really does. This is why my business shifted from external branding and marketing to internal branding and marketing. You know, that's coaching, that's training, because every person you hire is your salesperson, is your business, is your product. The way you communicate with them, whether or not you allow them to take a day off when their kids are sick, all those things, that's your brand. That's human connection. And then when, like, I had a call yesterday with AT&T. And I had two different people that I called, and I was frustrated. And I'm a nice person. I'm really nice, but you could tell I was frustrated. And so I connected with the guy. I'm like, I'm just frustrated because I'm using your service, and we don't have to go into the details.
Yeah.
But he laughed and he said, "You know what, Steph, I know I've been talking to them about that, and here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you this extra bonus." And because I connected with him as a person. If I would have just called mad and said, "You've done me wrong, you charged me too much, fix it," then he would have put up his guards. But when you connect, they want to connect back.
Yeah.
And that's sales and marketing. That's branding. And AT&T trained their people to be that way as well. They were happy when they got on the phone and giggling at my frustration. But that's part of why I do coaching in addition to, design and copywriting and creating a website and, lead magnets and funnels and all those things, because the way that you communicate starts with the heart, goes to the head, and then it goes to the external world. And if it's all tactical, then you're likely going to miss most of your opportunities.
Wow. So you've got to focus on the internal brand before you go external.
Yes. Yes. And I in my business, I realized that I was frustrated with a lot of what we were doing at the old agency, because it was very, very traditional. And we'd have these clients, they'd come in and say, "We want to increase our sales by X. We're going to do it." So we would go back and say, "Okay, we're going to do it with these tactics and this design." But then it fell short on delivery from the client. But there's nothing that an agency can do with a traditional model to affect that. So you're held accountable for sales, but then there's service, there's product, there's management, there's turnover, all these things that are affecting the brand and the business in a huge way.
And you can't help change that unless you're doing coaching.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
at the
that's hard to
very
do at a big
least,
company.
it is hard to do at a big company, but at the very least, you have to have someone inside that's willing to hear you when you say it's not working. Someone on your team is not passionate about the product. They don't get it, or they're throwing us in the wrong direction, and it doesn't meet your customer's needs. They're not paying attention to the customer.
Hey there, it's Scott Reed, cutting in for a quick moment. If you're enjoying the podcast and finding value in our discussions, you're going to love the Access Plan. It's designed for entrepreneurs like you, offering unlimited legal advice without the worry of high hourly fees. With the Access Plan, you can get the legal support you need at a flat monthly rate so you can focus on growing your business with confidence. Head over to reblaw.com/access to learn more and join Access now and get busy shatterproofing your business. Now let's get back to our amazing guest.
Can you give me an example of where you've been able to help a customer or client with that internal change?
Yeah, so I'm working with a startup company right now that they do really amazing stuff. It's super high tech security, and they're growing really quickly. They have a phenomenal product, but this happens all the time with startups, especially tech startups. Like, you're really good at doing your little thing, and it's very effective, but then you have to hire 15 to 20 new employees. And so your investors are asking you to grow quickly, and to launch a new product. So you hire the, I'm saying this theoretically, but this is also, happening in the real world. They start hiring tactically for particular positions, but they're not necessarily paying attention to the cultural fit. They're not building a culture.
They're just hiring talent.
Exactly, targeting talent, and it's a distributed workforce. Everybody is all over the world, much less the country. So they're not connecting with each other, and it's started to get disparate, and everybody's going in different directions. Deadlines are still being met, but people are getting frustrated. A long time ago, I heard a quote. Someone was giving a speech, and they said that the biggest thing that they learned when they had their startup was that when you first start out, you hire your friends, you hire people that you know and trust. He said we would get in this van and go to lunch together because we all wanted to go to lunch together. And then when we got bigger, not everybody would fit in the van to go to lunch. But when he hired, he would ask himself, are they van worthy? Would you want to be in the van with them? And it takes it even further. If you would you take a road trip with them? Right.
Yeah.
So how much do you trust them? How much do you like them is a big part of the hiring process, even when you're hiring for really specific skill sets. Because when it comes down to deadlines, you've got to make sure that everybody is passionately, excitedly willing to work extra when it's necessary, but also that there's not a culture built that they're pushed to work extra all the time. So that's one of the things that we're working on right now, because it's really, especially in a high tech startup, you want to prove something to all of your investors. You want to prove it to the world. Your dev teams wants to prove things, but you can't prove all the time. There has to be a balance. There has to be a passion. There has to be a reason that you're doing this other than proving. So that's one of the things that we're working on. And also voice. It's easy when you're small to have a cohesive voice. And like I said, you hire your friends, you hire people you've worked with in the past, but then you start hiring outside, and you have, 7 different people talking directly to customers, and then another person writing the content and another person doing something else. So if you don't define the brand voice, then again, it starts to get disparate. And then your product isn't as effective as it could be because it wasn't defined early on. And that's when you have to rebrand. You have to come back. You have to spend thousands of dollars to backtrack.
Countless hours. How would someone document the defining the voice of a company? How would you document that?
Yeah, so I create something called the brand expression snapshot. And yeah, it sounds really exciting. It is. I love it. I love it. Sometimes I think why do people not look at me and go like, oh my gosh, you're a superstar, Steph. How do you do what you do every day?
Yeah.
That's how much I love my job. But So the brand expression snapshot, it takes many forms, and, big agencies create these, multi-page big brand books.
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be that big. What it does need to do is define who you are, what your mission is, what the long-term vision is, and that long-term vision is, a snapshot. And it can change, but it gives everybody a feeling of a roadmap. And businesses don't like to talk about feelings, but that is the basis from which all decisions are made, whether we want to admit it or not. And if everyone is feeling in the same direction, then everybody
Mhm.
can make decisions without having to run it up the chain to make sure that it's okay. You're empowering them to make decisions. So this brand expression snapshot has to say who you are and who you're not. So especially when you think about like social media, for instance, and what you're going to comment on, what you're going to share, and what you're going to post yourself. It has to be very clear what you are going to attach yourself to. So, the voice is, we are friendly and approachable, but not dismissive. We are open and accepting, but we're not going to attach ourselves to a particular cause. Or we are all inclusive and we will attach ourselves to the causes we care about. That has to be defined.
Oh.
And it has to be adhered to, because someone in your company is going to care about that. And if you say we're inclusive, but you don't say anything on, Black History Month or whatever, somebody's going to
Mhm.
get a little upset about that. Or if you say that you're inclusive and you don't hire someone because of they're in transition,
Different, yeah.
and it doesn't look good for sales to have someone, whatever your thought process is behind that, then you're going to lose an employee. Someone's going to leave because you pissed them off. But if you say inclusivity means this to me, or we're not all about inclusivity in that way, then everybody knows what they're getting into. So that's part of, again, this internal, external, it's everything. And especially the younger employees really care. They want to align themselves with something that aligns with them. And so the more you define, the better. But in my brand expression snapshot, it's, I just went off on a political tangent, but one of the things I like to do is, and this doesn't have to necessarily be in this exact format for you, but I talk about roots, vines, blooms, and wings. Your roots are the things in your business that will never change. It's the reason that you got into business.
Right.
Your vines are when you start to weave your way into the world, what you stand for, what your product is generally going to do. Like for you, the legal services for small business, but that lends itself to a lot of other things. So your blooms then are the beautiful things that stand out, that make your business different, like this podcast, because you want to make a difference. You're not just all about providing the legal framework, and you are about making a difference, providing advice, being ahead of the game, helping your clients beyond just reading the contract after there's a problem, right?
Exactly. Yep.
So that's the difference in your business from other legal firms. So these are defined in your roots, vines, blooms, and then your wings are the things that are really going to make you stand out different. And this is like your long-term vision, or sometimes you get there pretty quickly, but you can't know what your blooms and wings are unless you really know what your roots and your vines are. And you constantly come back to that to say, but who are we? We can't go out and do this other thing if it's not rooted in who we are.
Wow.
So that's a big part of the brand expression snapshot. How are we going to express ourselves in the world? But the biggest thing is your pillars of this is what we stand for. And that's a big part of that is your roots.
Yeah. And a lot of us, I think, have those in our companies, and then we put them on a shelf and don't communicate them.
Yes. So that is, again, understanding that brand is not just your logo and the book that the agency provided you when they created it. If you really believe that book, then it should be part of your hiring process. It should be part of your training process. It should be part of your, if you're going to have a holiday party, what holiday is it that you have it around? And there are things in that book, your pillars, what we stand for, community. Okay, if we stand for community, then we have our holiday party. We're going to donate, a portion of our proceeds, or we're going to do it in conjunction with the big brothers, big sisters, and whatever it might be. Or we're going to invite our employees' families, because family is a part of our core beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
But if you hire an HR person who never sees your brand expression, your brand book, they are going to look at the budget and say, like, I want to make a big impact. We're going to have this huge, beautiful party, and it's going to be amazing, and everybody will remember it. But we're spending all the money on our employees, so we can't invite their families.
Yep.
So, but what's more important?
Yeah. And especially if you're going around saying how important family is.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, so it should be part of your decision-making process across the board. And this is something that is really hard for a lot of people. Your CFO and your legal team also need to know what your brand stands for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because your brand controls how you spend your money, how you treat your money, and then your legal team needs to know how you want them to communicate, because lawyers can communicate in very different ways and different styles, and it needs to match your brand, or it can cause you all kinds of trouble. For example, we're working on a demand letter for a client right now because someone's been doing something, saying inappropriate things about them online. And so we have to think about that letter could very easily end up posted on Instagram or Facebook. And if it is, it's got to be a good reflection of us, but it also, the voice and tone of it needs to match the core values and expression of that company. And so it's, you got to have the right team for that. And if they don't understand who you are, they can't be the right team. And so you've got to communicate with that with your experts. Wow, I knew you had a lot of good stuff, Steph, but this has been amazing. I need to have you back and do more. This is, like I said, I love marketing, and then I really love the vision, mission, core values, purpose, passion. A lot of the stuff's in my new book that's coming out, and I say it in different ways than you do. You're way more creative than I am, but I love this stuff. It's been such a great time having you on the show. Like I said, would love to have you back and talk more and go deeper. And then even when we have I've got some events coming up, I'd love to talk to you about maybe coming in and diving into some of this stuff in more of an in-depth way. But really, really appreciate you giving value to our Shutterproof audience. And just want to, in closing, give you an opportunity. Where would you like the audience to come find you? What's the best place?
Yeah, so you can find me Vine Brands on Instagram. Like I said, my book, if you're interested, is a really interesting, entertaining, inspiring, and lesson-filled read. And you can find that on Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And my website is vine-collective.com. There you can find ways to connect with me for coaching, or if you want to put together an offsite or a retreat for your employees. I'm also, like I said, I love helping to develop the brand snapshot. And I have a tool called Performance IQ, where I can work with your team to assess the entire company to see where you are aligned or misaligned, and then coach you back into alignment. So Performance IQ is very, very powerful if you are in the middle of getting ready to go into a big launch or growth phase. This is a great time to do a Performance IQ right ahead of a big shift, to make sure that you're going to perform at the highest level.
Wow. Reach out to Steph, guys. She can really help you do marketing in a way that you have not thought about before. Well, in closing, Steph, I want to offer you a blessing. May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and may the rains fall upon your fields. Until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand. Thank you for joining us on the Shatterproof Entrepreneur. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed the show, please like it and subscribe, and we'll see you next week on the Shatterproof Entrepreneur. Until then, stay shatterproof.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be taken as professional advice. While I'm your host, Scott Reed, and a lawyer, I'm not your lawyer, and this podcast does not establish an attorney-client relationship. The views expressed by my guests are their own and not mine, and they may not even reflect the opinion of the Shatterproof Entrepreneur podcast. So we strive to provide valuable and accurate content, but we make no representations as to the accuracy, completeness, or suitability of any information to your particular situation, and won't be liable for any errors or omissions for the application of them. Always consult a professional or in the respective area that we've discussed before making any personal or business decisions.